Okay, I would like to introduce our next speaker. We're looking at Kristy Mounsey, who is a public speaker. Kirsty's goal is to use her lived experience of being neurodivergent and with mental health issues to break stigma on how people can live their best lives. Kirsty is also an emotional CPR educator, which is trauma-informed 2-day course that teaches people how to support someone with emotional distress. And she's beginning a YouTube channel to help people learn more about mental health. I love that. Our first episode is called What is Recovery in Mental Health? Kristy, welcome. And we're looking forward to your speech.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a real honor when everybody's been so amazing. I wanted to start this with my favorite quote, and this talks to me a lot about advocacy. It is, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off," by Gloria Steinem. And I must say that a lot of my advocacy started from being really angry. Just really frustrated with the system, the mental health system, the disability employment services. One time when I never complained about this, but because I wasn't well enough to make a complaint or even know that I could complain. But when I first went into hospital when I was 22, they believed that I had AOD issues, even though I didn't. My mum told them I didn't. I told them I didn't. They made me take 7 blood tests in 10 weeks, all of which were negative, but they were still trying to get me to say that I'd taken illegal drugs, and I hadn't. And I didn't have the voice then to make a complaint. And I mean, I still believe that everybody with AOD issues needs help too. But the fact for me was I felt that nobody was listening and they couldn't hear what I was saying, and it was impacting on my care. And as I said, I didn't know how to make a complaint then. So it was an issue that was left uncomplained about. And it still bugs me to this day. It still makes me angry and upset. But I'll move on from that and talk a little bit about how I got into advocacy and what I do as an advocate. So a lot of my advocacy is freelance, and when I start, and for free too often, when I, sorry, I'm very nervous, but I was in disability employment services trying to get a career and trying to get a job for around 11 years, and they did not help me. And I wanted to make complaints about this. So I wrote a letter to my local member of Parliament, and then I wrote a letter to the then Minister of Disability Employment Services, and I got a form-feed letter back. But then what happened is I followed up with a phone call. I got to speak to somebody for about 2 hours. And a lot of the time when you're an advocate, you'll come up against closed doors over and over again. And it's about, and we can all be advocates. It's about continually to knock on the door. So when I got the form feed letter back, I rang up and I talked to somebody, and I got somebody who was very nice and listened for about 2 hours about the different problems with the disability employment services and how I thought they could be fixed. But she told me to ring back in February. This was in November. She told me to ring back in February, and I rang back in February because she wanted time to work on the issues that I brought up, and I found out I'd been blacklisted. I had no way to contact her or anybody else in her in the person's office. So they wouldn't talk to me.
I didn't find that.
I'm sorry. That was just Suri. So I had no way to talk to them. So I rang the then Minister for Mental Health's office, and they were gatekeeping. So I wasn't able to get an appointment to speak to him, and I did not get on well with the person on the telephone. So I said to her, how can I make a complaint about you? 3 times. And her sarcastic reply was, well, you can tell the Prime Minister. So then I got off the phone to her and I rang the Prime Minister's office and I told them what had happened. And they said, can you please put that in writing? So I sent a letter to the Prime Minister's office and I got a lovely letter back saying they hadn't explained the process to me properly and they were sorry that I wasn't informed. And I don't know what happened from there. Sometimes when we do advocacy, we never know the outcome of that advocacy, but it doesn't mean it's not the best thing to do. Sometimes we get lucky and we find out the outcome, but that was not one of them. But and as horrible as this might sound, I really hope that she got in trouble for treating me, somebody with a mental health issue, so badly over the telephone when I wanted to talk to and make an appointment to see the Minister for Mental Health. So anyway, going on from that, I've written a lot of letters to ministers and that over the years, and mostly on systemic issues. And as I said, sometimes we don't see the results of that. But I want to tell you about 2 experiences I had positive experiences with advocacy. So there's 2 main types of advocacy, I would say. There's individual advocacy, where we're helping one person, and sometimes that one person can be ourselves. So that would be self-advocacy as part of individual advocacy. And another type would be systemic advocacy. We're trying to change a system, and that system might be the country. It might be because we might want to change legislation or that sort of thing. So an example from my own life about individual advocacy was when I was trying to get NDIS. So I went through one process for a year and they lost my paperwork. Then when I came back, they told me I rang up 3 times and I went into the office and suddenly they found my paperwork. And then they rang me at 9 o'clock one night and said, they rang me at 9 o'clock one night and said, okay, we believe you're autistic and we believe you have bipolar, but we don't believe that impacts your everyday life. So up to round 2 of applying for NDIS. I didn't go this time. I didn't go this alone. I had an organisation which was Flourish at the time, and they helped me gather my paperwork. And it took about a year to put the application together and put the application in. And then NDIS staff started contacting me again and said that I didn't have enough evidence of my autism. And I knew, reading between the lines, that they wanted an occupational therapy report that I could not afford. So I drafted a letter again. I sent it to the then Minister for NDIS or disability, the Shadow Minister for NDIS, and the Greens. I was very lucky because the minister, the senator, the spokesperson for the NDIS for the Greens at the time was Senator Steele John. And lo and behold, they rang me back within an hour. And I told them how I thought they wanted an occupational therapy report and I couldn't afford one and that sort of thing. They drafted a quick question to the NDIS regarding my case, and I gave them my details and that. They said, how can Kristy afford an occupational therapy assessment when she's living on DSP? Have you got any resources for her to get this information so she can give it to you? But that went to, and not deliberately, but that was sent to the complaints department. And thanks to Senator Steele John's office, I got NDIS within a week. So I'm very grateful to him and his office. They were very lovely to me, but that was an example of how individual advocacy can pay off. And individual advocacy is advocacy we do for ourselves or for somebody else on an issue that affects an individual. So the next thing I want to talk about is systemic advocacy. And at the moment, I'm volunteering for the Anti-Poverty Network of South Australia. I actually live on Bunurong country in Victoria, but there is no Anti-Poverty Network of Victoria. The Anti-Poverty Network of South Australia is all made up of volunteers, and they look at national issues. So wherever you are in Australia, if you want to get in touch and tell your story, we have a link for that. We're looking at campaigns around raising job seeker and housing affordability are the two main areas, and also ending mutual obligation. Trish gave me some ideas about this, so I'm going to have a look at the human rights documents I have and see how I can apply them to that. But one of the reasons that raising job seeker is so important is because people with mental health issues are often languishing on job seeker for years, not sick enough to get DSP, but too sick to be able to work. So I've got some statistics here about job seeker because it is an important issue. So bear with me for a moment while I consult my phone. Sorry about this. I'm very nervous today and I didn't think I would be. And I just clicked over, but the point is, I would recommend going to the Anti-Poverty Network of South Australia if you want to talk about your stories, having mental health and problems with Centrelink and that sort of thing. They can't do individual advocacy, but if we all tell our stories as much as possible, we'll be able to hopefully get a significant raise to job seeker. They did raise job seeker in 2023, and places like the Anti-Poverty Network of South Australia were very instrumental to that change. But so far in the last 30 years or roughly 30 years, we've got them to change it by less than $3 a day. And I think that or more statistics about how much job seeker is under the poverty line, and that can be found on the Anti-Poverty Network of South Australia's website. But I think poverty is a very important mental health issue, one that isn't talked about enough. So what I'm asking you today is to think about an issue that's really important to you in mental health and start writing letters. Your local MP is one area to write letters to. After your local MP, because we've just had an election and the Liberals and Nationals didn't get in, if you've got a Liberal or National member of Parliament, still write to them. It's never a waste of time to write to them, but they can't do much from opposition. But if you write to your local senator, in the senator in your state, I would focus on the ALP senators at the moment because of the political climate. They won the election. But write to your senators, write to your local ministers. So at the moment, the social services minister is Tanya Plebisek, and her deputy or assistant social services minister is Jed Carney. Write to them. we can write to the Australian Human Rights Commission about other things that have happened in mental health. We've got the Minister for Mental Health, I believe, is Mark Butler at the moment. Um, oh, so what I might ask you to do today is to write to the local members of parliament and your ministers and that sort of thing, because the more we write, the more less they can ignore us. Poverty is one of the issues that I focus on, because too many people with living experience of mental health issues are living in poverty. But there's a million other issues to write about. There's the health minister that you can write to. I know that writing a letter can be intimidating, and what I think most people will never write a letter to their local member of parliament, yet alone to a minister or that. And it can be intimidating, and sometimes you don't get the answer you want. But every time you write a letter, they tick a box to say they got somebody who wrote them a letter on that issue. Another issue that I don't think people realise is if you get a form feed letter or something, a response you're not happy about, write back. Recently, just before the election, I wrote to my local minister, a member of parliament. Sorry, she's not a minister, a local member of parliament, about raising job seeker and the fact that a lot of people on job seeker have children, and 1 in 6 children in Australia lives in poverty. And when I got a response, and the response was not favourable. They wrote back and said, every dollar we give somebody on job seeker is a dollar somebody else earned. And I wasn't happy, so I wrote back again. You can continue writing to them as much as you like, because they are your representatives at the end of the day. And I want you to have a voice. And the way we get a voice is to talk and to share our stories. And sometimes that's very hard to do, but I really think we're all here because we know the importance of that. So thank you very much. And I'll pass over to Jess now, who's been doing a wonderful job emceeing this event.
Um, I wrote to Senator John Steele myself about the ADHD inquiry, and within a week I had a meeting with his team and himself. So I can personally attest to the fact that he is a huge advocate and listens to what people have to say regarding disability support and ADHD. So I can definitely relate to that when you mentioned it. Also, I don't know if you're a bit like me, but politicians go running down the street when they see me coming, because if they if they're standing outside holding leaflets, they're like, oh, here comes Jess, who's come to talk to us about mental health again, especially if they're part of the Liberal Party. So I can definitely relate to what you're doing, and I think it's incredible. We've had some great questions come through that I'll run through with you, but someone's written that they really admire your determination, as do I. What keeps you going?
I probably shouldn't say this, but a passion for change keeps me going, and generally getting pissed off.
I love that. I love yelling at the government, so I can relate to that. That's
yeah. So, and I always start with a really nice letter, and when I write a second letter, I'm not nasty, but I take it, I say, you didn't respond to this.
A bit more stern.
Yes, you
Yeah.
didn't respond to this. I would like this point addressed.
Yeah, I love that. It's perfect. Someone's raised a question, which is a very valid point. So I really struggle to make phone calls. Do you think letters are as impactful? And I guess just to follow on from that, do you believe that they're more impactful than a phone call?
Yes, because a phone call can get you to hit gatekeepers like receptionists and that, who don't always sometimes they're very nice people, but that was the problem I had with the health minister years ago, and that was a long time ago. But um, his secretary was acting as a gatekeeper. She did not want to know what I had to say. She didn't care. Um, and the attitude was not even that I should write a letter. The attitude was I should go to this other minister's office who I had already been to.
Yeah.
And I was saying that one of the policies for the government has been for a long time that every mental health is a whole of government issue.
Okay.
It's everybody's responsibility, but often they don't act on that or they don't act like that. So I think the more we talk and the more we put it in writing, the less they can ignore us.
Yeah, very true. And just following on from that, a really good question, a good segue into this. Are there any resources that you'd recommend to help writing letters? This particular person says they don't feel very confident in doing this. So is there somewhere that you can find templates or things like that online?
Contact me and I'll help you personally.
There you go. There's
I
none.
don't know if there's templates online or that sort of thing, but I'm available on Facebook. I'm very active and I'm just starting to get active on LinkedIn. Um, and I've got Kristy Mounsey as a kind of unique name. I shouldn't be too hard to find.
It's not,
I
not like
really,
Kristy Smith.
yeah, exactly. I really thrive on wanting us all to have a voice. And I don't care if your issue, I've helped people write letters who I fundamentally don't agree with their issue, but I really agree with their ability to find a voice. And um, yeah, friends, family can help you write letters as well if you want to share it with them. Um, Lots of people have professions where they have to write letters, and
Yeah.
sometimes saying to them, "Can you read through my letter?"
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's great that you've given yourself like that, like to be that person for someone to maybe review what they've written. Like that's really kind of you to do. So you're probably going to get inundated with emails of things, but you never know.
I really hope so. Don't email me though. Get me on Facebook or LinkedIn because I'm hopeless at responding to email.
That's all right. We'll make sure your details are passed on.
Thank you.
We've had a question come through about like that someone is interested in your perspective on the relationship between activism and advocacy in your journey. When and how have you noticed your efforts shifts from activism, talking direct, noticeable action and change, to advocacy, which often focuses on persuading others and working within systems to influence policy and practice?
Wow, that's a really good question. I guess to me, activism is very public, and sometimes advocacy is the quieter stuff we do behind the system. I mean, I'm all for getting placards and walking down the street with signs and that sort of thing, but often um, writing letters over and over is some way that I've been able to get a more effective result, especially on issues where only a smaller group of people have that experience or want to be active on that experience. When if we could get 1,000 people to walk down the street tomorrow on mental health, I'd be there.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to do, whereas everybody can write a letter, and I'm going to be writing letters to politicians until I die. And what I welcome you to do is remember that politicians are human beings, not even always good human beings. And we have every right to talk to them. If they want to represent us, then they should be answerable to us.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. Do you have any advice for people that are new to advocacy? Or is there anything about advocacy that you wish you had have known earlier?
There's a resource that I meant to give out and talk about that I think is really important. It focuses on mental health advocacy, and it's a really old resource. It's called The Kit, The Advocacy We Choose to Do. It's
Okay.
from the 90s, It can be found online. It's a few hundred pages, and it was all written by consumers about advocacy.
Amazing. Okay, we'll make sure we get a link to that into the chat and into what we pass on after the conference. Actually, Finding North have already done it. There you go. There's a link to it in the chat already. How's that
Thank
for speed?
you.
So thank you for that. The social determinations between including poverty of mental health changes and suicide. How do we get the dynamic on the public agenda? It's a big question.
Write to newspapers.
Yep.
Even if they don't publish your letter, they may still read them. Write to talk to, if you've got the courage, and this is something I find very hard to do, but talk to radio stations where they let you ring in and talk about something. Usually when you ring in and talk about something to do with mental health, then the floodgates open and everybody wants to talk about it because it is a really important issue, and we know that or we wouldn't be here today. I think it really comes down to talking about it, being passionate about it, sharing our stories. It takes a really lot of courage, and you don't have to share your story publicly. The Anti-Poverty Network has an area where you can share your story anonymously, Facebook groups. I used to dream as a kid that I would have a billboard in my front yard so as I could tell everybody about the most important things to do with whatever issue I thought was important at the time,
Yep.
as a 13-year-old. Well, we all kind of do now because we have access to social media.
Yep.
So just talk, network. You never know when you run into somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Six
I
degrees
think
of separation, isn't it? So,
I think no conversation is wasted.
yeah,
And when we make that personal connection with somebody we're sitting on the bus with, we never know where that will go. So just keep talking when it's safe to do so. I'm not saying that everyone should disclose to their workplace or not or anything like that, but when you feel that you can talk about your experiences. Politicians love getting personal experiences in letters, so often they get facts and statistics, and it really can change somebody if they actually hear a personal story and somebody reads your letter.
yeah,
It might The hardest thing in advocacy, I think, is when we don't get an outcome straight away and we think our efforts are wasted, but we never know what's going on behind the scenes.
100%. 100%. Kristy, thank you so much. You've provided a wealth of information and given people a lot of impact and a want to write letters. So I think that our politicians are probably going to really regret us all meeting you. But but I really enjoyed listening to your story. And everything that you do, please just keep going with it. You've
Thank you
doing
very
an
much.
amazing job. So thank you.
And the other thing that I would just like to add as my absolutely last thing
Yeah, sure.
is, now I've got nervous, I've forgotten. The absolutely last thing I want to say is that you never know the results of your advocacy. So often we don't find out that we've made a change and it's a really significant change because we only have to change one person's mind, put it on their must-do list or whatever, and it can change somebody else's life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If we can change one person's point of view, then we're doing a good job. So
Mhm.
you know what? You're absolutely right. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate everything you've said today.
Thanks for watching. Explore more Perspectives 2025 on Finding North Network's YouTube channel. Find out more by visiting findingnorthnetwork.com.au or email info@findingnorthnetwork.com.au.